G'day guys, Rich from Unichip Australia here. Today I've got in this 100 series Landcruiser. It's fitted with a 1HD-FTE, which is a turbo diesel engine. Current modifications to the car is a turbo back exhaust, safari snorkel and a competitor's chip. Customers brought it to us wanting basically the burger with the lot, which will include a full plug and play Unichip, electronic boost control and 5-way map select switch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys through the entire process from the installation of the Unichip, the operation of the map select switch and the way the electronic boost controller works. I'll be doing a fair few dyno runs on it, showing what the performance and power is like with the current chip on it as standard and the after results with a Unichip fitted to it. So I hope you all enjoy it. Right guys, just banging the car on the dyno at the moment so I can do a before run on it. Basically as the customer's dropped it off to me, we'll see what sort of numbers we get out of it. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier guys, I'm going to talk you through everything to do with this dyno run to make sure all of our results are on par. So basically with any dyno, it's got an inbuilt weather station. Basically allows you to say how hot it is, the atmospheric pressure and also humidity. So what I've done is I've set it up for the conditions today, so I'll be carrying out the first run on these conditions, which I will then replicate again in the next run without the aftermarket chip on it. Same conditions, give you an accurate power and torque value as well. Righto guys, so run number one was basically as the car was brought to me with the aftermarket chip on it. Like I said, turbo back exhaust, safari intake. It made 89.8 kilowatts and around about 360 newton meters of torque. Righto guys, aftermarket chip's been removed, so now it's basically in stock format, aside from, like I said, the exhaust, the intake. So we'll do another power run now, same atmospherics as before, see exactly how it comes up and how the aftermarket chip compares to standard. Okay, another important thing here guys, there's plenty of different theories about AFRs and what they should be, shouldn't be. Everyone's got a different opinion, a lot of tuners do it differently. I just wanted to point out to you that the chip that I just removed from the car was sold as a fuel control chip. Clearly you can see for yourself that the difference between standard and with the chip fitted is bare minimum, wouldn't even be 0.2 on the AFR scale. So just wanted to point that out to you, that even though it's sold as a aftermarket chip doesn't necessarily always mean that it's going to make the difference that you're expecting. Right guys, so I've just taken this 100 series off the dyno where I've got all the information I needed with the aftermarket chip and back to stock. So I'm going to move on to mounting the electronic boost controller over here next to the airbox. The wiring harness will pass across the firewall, through a grommet over the other side, into the cab where the Unichip is mounted with a full plug and play harness. So on a 100 series with a 1HD, the computer is located behind the glove box, which I've removed. This is the Unichip plug and play harness. Basically plugs straight into the computer harness plugs straight into my Unichip block and then plugs into the Unichip. Now this, as I mentioned earlier, this vehicle is fitted with the optional electronic boost control, which I've pre-wired, which I'll pass through the firewall, run across the firewall to the electronic boost controller, which I'll talk about shortly. Okay, so the map select switch has been mounted. It's a simple 3-pin plug here. This is one for the Unichips that are mounted in cab. The engine bay ones have a waterproof plug on them. Map select switches basically can be mounted wherever the customer requests, in this case on the center console. It'll light up, have 5 independent selectable maps, and I'll talk more about that when I'm tuning it a bit later on. Okay, so as I mentioned a few times earlier, we'll be fitting the electronic boost controller to this. So conventionally these just have a boost reference off the compressor housing, so it's set to 1 level of boost. What the electronic boost controller is going to do, it'll intercept the hose from the wastegate and from the compressor housing. It'll allow me to electronically control the boost using the Unichip. It does come with a rubber mount and a bracket that we have had laser cut, as well as waterproof OEM plugs. I've already run the wire across the firewall as I mentioned before, so we're all ready to go. Alright guys, so I'm going to use this table here as an example. This is map 5, so the customer's has requested this to be an immobiliser map, so I don't require any numbers here to manipulate the boost. What I'll do is I'll flick straight over here, which is map set 1. So our high power map, as you can see, it's populated with plenty of numbers. This represents duty cycle percentage, so how much I'm bleeding the boost using the electronic boost controller that we installed earlier. Like I said, it gives me the ability to manipulate and change boost at different levels, different RPMs in this case is the reference, as opposed to as in relation to throttle. So if I give the throttle a rev, you'll notice that my tuning box here, the little red square, moves up and through the map. Gives me an indication and an idea of the numbers that I'm changing at what position the car is. Okay, so one of the benefits of being able to live tune is the steady state tuning that I'm doing at the moment. So what that allows me to do is hold it at a certain throttle position at a certain RPM, check my map, check the AFRs, check the boost level, see that I'm happy where everything's at. If I'm happy with the area, with the numbers that are in it, I can just wind the dyno up a little bit higher, increase the RPM, even bring my throttle up a little bit higher. Again, check the AFRs, check the boost, check the power and the torque outputs so I'm happy, find the best result, the optimum numbers, and go from there. So I'll head back to the steady state screen, looking at my map, which I can also graph live in the Unichip software. I'll make the adjustments from steady state. That's the safest way to do it, as opposed to just continuously doing power runs, and it'll clean up the areas that I'm unhappy with. Okay guys, I've done a fair bit of steady state tuning on this, populated the timing, throttle, boost, fuel tables, pretty happy with where we're sitting at the moment, so it's time to do a power run and see what the result's going to be. Right, so we finished tuning up this 100 series, very happy with the result. Like I said earlier, it's got 5 maps. Just down here is the 5 map select switch. You can see currently I'm in map number 1, which is the high power map. Flicking through the numbers, 2, 3, 4, down into number 5. Customers requested that as an immobiliser map. To give you an example on what that's going to do, I'm currently pressing the throttle. You can see that there's no change in the RPM. It's exactly what an immobiliser map's designed to do. Flicking back up, I instantly get my throttle response back, all the way back up to the high power map. Alright guys, so I finished doing the custom tuning on this 100 series, the 1HD-FTE. As you can see, results have come up pretty well, but I'll talk you through them. The red line here is the standard run that I did with the aftermarket chip, was the first run that I did. If we step it up here, I'll go straight to the high power with the Unichip. So the Unichip itself turned just on 90 kilowatts up to 114.6 kilowatts. As far as the torque goes, the torque went from 360 to 540 Newton meters of torque. The customer option went for the option of the 5 map select switch, so there is on the screen here 4 individual tunes plus map 5, which the customer's asked to be an immobiliser map, which basically, as it says, immobilises the car. Map 2 is towing, so it's a slightly down on power, bit more of a flatter torque curve, still much more standard, much more high power than what it was standard. Even the economy power and torque, which is where I lean it right off so that you get good economy for highway driving, etc. Still has more power and more torque than it did standard. Obviously runs a lot leaner as well, so it'll be great on fuel. And to finish it off, 4x4 map, which is map number 3, as you can see in the top corner. Basically a lot of power, a lot of torque, but a really, really dull throttle. So as the customer's four-wheel driving out in the bush and hits a rut or a big rock or something like that and jumps on the throttle, the car's not going to respond instantly and try and jump out from underneath him. So definitely chalk and cheese between what is standard or what was standard and what it is now. So I think the customer's going to be extremely impressed.